talk about the digital revolution in India without talking about the inclusive digital revolution. I think what, what is remarkable about India's digital growth story is that it has focused on the inclusion of all segments of population. This stands out. And obviously, institutions like NPCI and SBI had played a greater role. But as you mentioned, Zoni, I think it's not only about numbers. Every number looks very large in India, including our own customer base of 520 million, and we acquire 60 to 65,000 customers, new customers every day. So, but whether this is leading to any qualitative usage, access, I think broadly we have addressed in terms of providing a bank account to every individual, every adult in the country. I think that is a phenomenal job which the banking system, based on the JAM Trinity you're all familiar with, has been able to achieve. But the next step would be that what is that qualitative services we are making available to them, and how effectively these services are being utilized by the end users. I think that is where SBI is playing a very important role, both by way of our digital channels, digital dominance, if I may call so, and also our physical dominance in terms of the touch points. We have about 1.6 lakh touch points as we speak. So I think we further dwell on that as we move forward, but I think just want to set the context that today SBI, through the digital as well as physical, is always putting the customer at the center of our activities. It is not only when we talk about digital, not necessarily that we have to talk about mobile application, mobile-based banking. While it is very critical, we also have to see that how the physical outlets are being reimagined so that the accessibility of services are made available to across the country. Number two, we also have a very strong contact center. Today, our contact center attracts more than 60% traffic from the rural and semi-urban areas because it provides services in 15 different languages. I think this is the inclusive story of SBI to start with.
Thank you so much for that, sir. So let's start with access, and we'll build on the usage and the quality. So the key question would be, with your reach, and what are some of the key lessons? Because yes, it is about putting numbers there, but that's not while we're saying, oh, that's done, but that's not easy either, just because we've come that far in the journey with the access. If there are, so if you could just talk about any few lessons from the huge reach, you mentioned the 1.6 lakh touch points, and then actually take us through how YONO, SBI YONO, is a catalyst for expanding that access or getting to, when you say a number, whether it is 500 million or 100 million, all numbers are not the same. There are excluded sections of the society. So how is YONO being a catalyst for further accelerating that access?
Before I talk about YONO, I think we also have to speak more about the physical presence, what you mentioned. When we talk about 520 million customers of SBI, the demographic, geography spread, and the literacy levels are completely different. I think it's a reflection of Indian society itself. So how do you cater to the various segments of our customer base is a big challenge. It's not a homogeneous group of customers. We have people who have just started bank account with a zero balance, and we have highest net worth individual banking with SBI. So how do you cater to these diversified needs of customers have been important. And also, it's not only that you have underserved segments in rural and semi-urban areas, we have large number of underserved population within urban and metro areas too, which means that your channel strategy, your product strategy, your language strategy have to be designed for these various segments. So I feel proud that today 520 million customers are never denied any service in SBI, whichever are their needs, whether it is a wealth management spectrum to the basic banking needs of having a Jan Dhan accounts in India. I think this is what the range of services SBI is capable of providing. which comes to the fact that access is all about providing scale in India. And particularly from a fintech point of view, I take this liberty of jumping the gun. The fintechs, whenever we talk to most of the fintechs who work with us, we say that you have to bring the scalability for your solutions. Because in India, if you are not able to cater to the scale, and we will not be able to provide the access what we are talking about, business correspondents have played a very great role in terms of inclusion. And we have enabled them by providing very cutting edge technology. Today, more than 2.5 million people take their services across the rural areas, either as fixed point BCs or handheld devices. Today, they provide 33 different banking services, both in the rural semi-urban as well as in the urban and metro areas. So this access through the physical channels is important before we talk about the digital. YONO has been a revolutionary item for us in terms of providing the access, irrespective of the physical presence, what we have had. And today we have more than 90 million registered users on mobile banking application YONO. YONO also has helped us to reimagine the journeys at the branch level. When people talk about YONO, I think it is more visualized as a mobile platform. But let me also share with you that we use the YONO rails to develop the branch portal journeys also. This is to create a uniform experience and also improve our way of dealing with the customers. For example, in a conventional manner, we used to take about an hour to complete onboarding at the branch level. Today, with the reimagined journey on the YONO portal and using the e-Aadhaar, we are able to do it in 10 to 15 minutes. So, YONO has to be seen from both on the technology enabler at the physical touch points as well as the mobile banking application, what we have done. And our future plans on the YONO is that one is we want to have a diversified languages available. Almost 15 languages will be available in YONO 2.0. And we would like to focus on how do we make more and more products available for farmers, MSME customers, and also the financial inclusion customers.
That is fantastic, sir. In fact, you mentioned the BC points, right? And yesterday here, we actually launched another product. It's called UPI Cash Point. And I think it is so relevant because, yes, there is the customer who needs that cash at that, not just at a, yes, of course, we have the branches, and you mentioned that every service is available to every customer across all channels. I think that is phenomenal because very often it is quite, I think, you know, in the profitability game, it's very easy to say now that I have 5 channels, 2 is available to someone and the remaining 3 are not. The fact that SBI, in the true spirit, is ensuring that as you expand channels, access is available across all the points to all the customers. And then going beyond to the cash, the BCs, I think the UPI cash point, where customers will now be able to, not just Aadhaar enabled, we know that sometimes people have issues with the biometric, they'll be able to use UPI now to withdraw cash. And also onboard onto UPI using their biometric. These were 2 products that from NPCI were announced yesterday. And as you are talking about scale, I'm just thinking about how relevant these are going to be. So if we move from that access and go on to the usage. So once we get the customers onboarded, you mentioned MSMEs, other women customers, other customers. How do we ensure that they are actually getting the kind of products? So payments as like that's the first level when you open an account, then actually get them to do a transaction. But what are the key elements that you're looking at across all your channels, so whether it's YONO and of course leading with YONO, but all the other channels and services also, to get people to use their accounts more? Because as that velocity of usage increases, that's when the impact, the financial inclusion impact starts kicking in. So love to hear your views on that.
So the first very basic measurement of usage could be that, you know, we've opened almost 150 million Jan Dhan accounts. And as you're all familiar, Jan Dhan accounts start with the zero balance. In the last decadal journey, what we have seen is that today, 99.5% of these accounts are funded. which means that even if it's a small amount, average balance is about 4,000 rupees, but the fact that they do not remain as zero balance account, people started a little bit of savings here and there. That's a primary usage of an account that they're not, but that is not alone, whether they are frequently transacting. In this PMJDY account, we have about 3.5 million transactions every day. We still want more and more accounts to be operated. And another important element is that about 56% of these accounts are being utilized by women. And the second important element is that most of these PMJDY basic accounts will also get transformed into a full-scale operational accounts. That means somebody who's starting with a zero balance, they started taking up some productive activity, they started a small business. In the initial transactions happen in the savings bank account. And then probably when they grow, they open a current account. Which means that this transition, the usage of these accounts for their daily lives is increasing. Number two, I think the other elements of financial inclusion in terms of the credit, in terms of micro insurance, is also something what we have to look at whenever we talk about the usage. We should not stop only with whether they're actually using the bank accounts. Today, the large number of these Jandan account holders, financial inclusion customers, have moved to utilizing the micro insurance. And this micro insurance is being delivered at scale. And millions of Indians are now covered under whether it could be life insurance, accidental insurance, or even pension schemes. In a small measure, but very powerful measure, this usage of financial products like insurance is also increasing. The third element of inclusion, that the credit, I think it still is yet to pick up in terms of delivering through the BC channel. We need to enhance that. But the usage of digital platforms with the help of fintechs and the startups, what we are trying to do, particularly in the small and medium enterprises, we are using the extensive data which is available to us as well as in the system, whether it could be UPI data, whether it could be GST data, whether it is income tax data, our own account statement data. Today, I'm very proud to say that an SME customer up to 5 crore rupees can get the loan approval within 25 to 26 minutes. I think this is made possible essentially because of the humongous digital landscape what we have created in India.
I think that calls for a round of applause. Imagine an MSME. Very important element, which is as we get into usage, credit, and NPCI has launched RuPay, and when we launched credit card on UPI, your subsidiary SBI Cards is a very large and significant issuer of the RuPay cards. We also launched the credit line on UPI, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can do more with the credit card and the credit line on UPI across different types of lending products. And our vision is, at one point, to increase access, again usage, and discoverability of credit, so that small street vendor today who proudly displays a QR code and a sound box, how does that vendor get access? And I think SBI is the best position to be able to provide access to credit. If we can at some point, maybe we might not be able to give him a credit card, but if he can avail a credit line and use that analytics, the data, because now we have all the information on their transactions, can we ensure that we create, and I'm thinking slightly futuristic here, just like every QR code is now a payment QR code, can we make credit discoverability at some point as easy as you scan your QR, you will get to know if SBI is offering you a credit line, or you apply for it and SBI can tell you what it takes for you in your financial behavior to do, so that you can check again in 3 months' time and then you can get credit. So how do we take this whole payment revolution to the credit revolution in terms of ease and discoverability, of course keeping the risk and other parameters?
Credit on UPI is a very, very powerful concept. I think we moved from payments, UPI being only the payment platform, to making the credit available on the UPI is a very, very revolutionary development. And as you mentioned, our subsidiary SBI card has done a phenomenal job in terms of almost 34% RuPay cards are active on this, and 18% spends are coming from SBI card. But the credit products from SBI on the UPI are currently limited to certain categories of products. There are two ways of looking credit on UPI. One is the intuitive credit availability to the user of UPI at the point of sale. This is basically we are using extensive data which is available to us and also correlating with UPI data and trying to give a pre-approved line of credit, essentially, yes, a small value credit, and maybe we can enhance as we go forward. But we are also thinking beyond the consumers who are using the point of sale, whether we can make this credit available to the farmers. KCC is one of the important element, whether we can make this line of credit available to the farmers on the UPI, because the extensive UPI usage there in the rural and semi-urban areas also. How do we make this credit available to them? But another point what you mentioned also is important to realize, how do we make the credit available to the vendors?
Yes.
If vendors are having a lot of their users being used UPI, today we have credit card receivables being discounted for a vendor, right? So whether we can do the same thing for UPI receivables also is something we are evaluating. We have predictive AI models which give a pre-approved loan to a large base of customers. But this small value credit has to be looked from a fact that delivering this credit is easier on the UPI. We need to strengthen our collection mechanism.
Yes.
Because this credit always has two components, that how do you give the money easily, more importantly, how do you collect it back. So we need to get the collection piece right before we roll out as many products on the UPI. But it's a very powerful tool which is available, and it is also a critical element of inclusive credit availability to the people. We will definitely work on that.
Yes, yes. No, absolutely. I think the power of expanding that will come from many of the products that you have, and it's such a great idea. I think we're talking about inclusion, and in our country, it cannot be inclusive unless we have spoken about how do we get the actual credit right down to the farmers in our country. And of course, there is no institution better placed than State Bank of India, sir, to do that. I would like to mention here that many of the NBFCs actually have been able to strengthen their collections because they are now getting people to collect on UPI. In fact, you see one of
हमारे साथ हैं सिविल एविएशन मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू। सर, फेस्टिवल का सीजन है और हम देख रहे हैं कि आमतौर पे इस समय में किराए में बढ़ोतरी होती है। क्या कदम उठाया जा रहा है मंत्रालय द्वारा इस बार इंश्योर करने के लिए कि